Welcome to the Pilot's Inner Circle on Flight Training Radio, where a good pilot is always learning. Now, here's your host and certified flight instructor extraordinaire, Jason Schappert.
Buddy, Jason Schappert here of M08.com, and welcome to Flight Training Radio, a part of the Pilot's Inner Circle, which is our exclusive members-only inner circle where members can earn FAA wings credit towards renewing their pilot certificate, in addition to a bunch of other cool stuff, such as webinars and everything, and you guys know most of that there. Anyways, if you are interested in becoming a Pilot's Inner Circle member, you can simply go to pilotsinnercircle.com to learn more. We are right now 110% live. If you guys would like to chit-chat about anything flight training related, the number to call in at is 877-537-6704. That number is also on groundschoolacademy.com/live, which a lot of you are listening there, so you guys will be able to call in and ask your flight training questions. That number, by the way, is toll-free. So, real quick, what I want to talk about today for the free portion of the show before we go to the members-only portion is this. Engine failures on takeoff. It really, it's a situation that doesn't get practiced a lot. It is a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. And those of you that have read the In-Flight Emergencies book I have out, you've heard probably Dustin's story. Dustin is a very good friend of mine who had a engine failure on takeoff. Now, Dustin walked away from the situation. He's a great pilot, and everything worked out just fine. But you know his story. He was flying in a Piper Arrow. And those of you that have flown Piper Arrows know that a Piper Arrow just doesn't have the glide ratio of, say, a Cessna 150 or 172 or any of our, lighter, more, private pilot trainer kind of oriented aircraft do. And he had an engine failure on takeoff at about 400 feet and was able to make a perpendicular runway or close to that perpendicular runway. And just to hear his story about you're taking off, you're out of usable runway, at least the runway that you just departed on, you have to gear up, and next thing you know, the engine, we're not talking he had a 25% power reduction or anything like that. I'm talking that engine just, seized up and stopped. And he talked about, he wasn't nervous. That's the kind of stuff you train for. And push that nose down to keep that positive airflow, realized he had a connecting runway that he could still kind of make, that he tried to make, he ended up missing it because of that poor glide ratio. Made a great choice, though, and still got it down on airport property. And that's something we're going to really talk about today. Just to listen to, Dustin, who, by the way, Dustin is a corporate pilot. Very much flies for a living, flies every single day just about. A really, really great pilot. What happens to the lower time guys? How can we better equip ourselves, in that situation? So really, there's two scenarios I want to talk about. And the two scenarios are this: with runway remaining and without runway remaining. Obviously, with runway remaining, as if there was a preferred situation, this would be the preferred situation to find yourself in. Now, and real quick too, obviously, if there's runway remaining, it's real simple. You're going to nose the airplane down, you're going to put it right back down that runway. However, it sounds so simple, but it's really not. And I want to emphasize something here. If you have not practiced this, and practice this with a CFI, don't go out with your buddy, don't, goofing around. Practice this with a CFI, but go out, find the longest runway you can, and practice this. taking off, get to 50 to maybe 100 feet. Well, we'll say we'll cut it in the middle, call it about 75 feet. And have your instructor reach over and pull that throttle back to idle. Obviously, you still have plenty of runway left. Obviously, you're going to put right back down the runway, land. If you have enough runway, you're going around, you're going again. If not, you're going to back taxi. But literally, depart. Get to 50, 75, maybe 100 feet. Have them pull that throttle back to idle. I guarantee you that before that instructor even gets that throttle to idle, the stall warning horn is on. I guarantee that you will feel the sink rate in your seat. Because think about it. You're slow. You're at a high angle of attack. Now you've just taken your power source away, and I mentioned that you're really low. I mean, can we talk about anything worse for a stall situation? Here the engine just quit. First you got to fight the stall, and then by the way you got to land the airplane too. That's why I say practice this stuff with an instructor, with a CFI. So we go and you literally, the moment that power comes back, that stall warning horn comes on, the first thing you have to do is what? You've got to push that nose over. And I mean, it's going to take all you've got to push that nose forward because you're in a 10, 15, maybe in a 15-degree climb out of there. You have got to push that nose forward. Now, as you push that nose forward, if you do it a little bit too aggressively, your butt's going to end up leaving the seat from all those G-forces. I mean, literally, it is a situation to practice because I don't want the first time I'm doing it, to be in the real deal. And you know what? This is not on the private pilot syllabus. It's not on the instrument or the commercial pilot syllabus. It's not required to even be practiced. You talk about it a little bit as if that helps, but it's not required to practice this sort of stuff. Again, you can do all the scenario-based training you want, but there's some things that just aren't getting taught, and this is one of them. So practice that with an instructor. Literally, when you push that nose forward, you're going to make the runway just fine. It's going to be a little bit of a hairy landing, but you're up and you're back down before you know it, and you're going to be amazed at how slow you get and how fast that sink rate and that stall could sneak up on you. You're going to have to be prepared and push that nose over. You've always got to be on your A game. So we talk about a sterile cockpit. Imagine if you and your buddy are sitting there and you're talking about tonight's Monday night football game. Who's going to win it? Not exercising that sterile cockpit. And that happens. This is another thing. We talked about this in last week's episode. Everybody used to be all gung-ho, checklist uses. You got to do this. Before anything happens, you got to run through that checklist. Now the FAA has come out and said, wait a second. Yeah, we want you to use the checklist. But let's take some action and then let's verify. Let's do then verify. The FAA's exact words. So, and in that sort of situation, it's just like our engine fire on start we talked about last week. Do you really think I'm going to be fumbling around with a checklist when my engine's on fire? No. I'm just going to know what needs to be done. Now you guys are probably saying, man, Jason, you made me memorize all that checklist last week. Now I got to memorize some more checklists. You're darn right. Sorry. It's just the truth. I mean, a good pilot is always learning. I mean, we live that mantra. Memorizing these checklists, having these flow checks ready. And this is another thing to emphasize, and I'm going to talk more about this in the members-only portion of this, but my complex aircraft guys. When I say complex aircraft, I'm talking retractable landing gear aircraft. I'm a big fan of, positive rate of climb, out of usable runway, gear up. I am not bringing that landing gear up until I am positive that I'm not going to make it back to that runway. And which brings us to the next thing. And by the way, any questions on this, guys, the call number is there, 877-537-6704. I'm going to grab a drink of water real quick here, and we're going to move on to the next segment. Excuse me just a second. So that's if there's runway remaining. What if there isn't runway remaining? If there isn't runway remaining and you're under 1,000 feet, you're going straight ahead. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I know people talk about this impossible turn and all this sort of stuff, but without runway remaining, you're going straight ahead. Okay, and that's below 1,000 feet. When I say below 1,000 feet, I'm talking AGL, above ground level. And really, in all actuality, you've got about a 60-degree window. Picture that with me. Straight off your runway, you've got about 30 degrees to your left and about 30 degrees to your right. You've still got a very finite window. My point of this is you're not turning back. It's called the impossible turn for a reason. You're just not going to turn back. Why not? Well, think about it. Again, same situation. You're low, you're slow, you're at a high angle of attack, and now you want to add a turn to the equation? Think about an impossible turn. It's not a 180-degree turn. If you made a 180-degree turn, that would just put you on the downwind. Does that make sense? You've really got to make like a 230-degree turn to even be coming back and having a shot at that runway. All right. Below 1,000 feet, AGL, we're going straight ahead to a site that falls within our 60-degree window. 30 degrees to the left, 30 degrees to my right. And members, you guys know we talked about passenger briefs in the members-only section of this podcast in last week's episode. Imagine now you can brief your landing site. By that I mean, hey, I know when I depart runway 28 at the Marion County Denellen Airport where I'm based at, just about 15 degrees to the left off the runway, there's a great field, and that's where I'm putting the airplane down. I have determined where I am landing that airplane in the event of an engine failure without usable runway before I even leave the ground. That's a part of my passenger briefing. Okay, you've got to brief this sort of stuff in the event of an engine failure on takeoff. Who's going to fly the airplane? Who's going to communicate the issue? Well, if I'm flying with another pilot, I'm going to ask, hey, in the event of an engine failure on takeoff, I'll be the sole manipulator of the flight controls. And you're in charge of the radios. You probably don't have time to change frequencies, but you better be blast our message all over this Unicom to make sure somebody hears us. Somebody's got to be listening that'll pay attention to us and help us out. There's no time to be fumbling around with 121.5 at that point. You're so low that you need to be talking to anybody that'll listen to you at that point. And that's just, being real with you. So who's going to fly? Who's going to work the radios? Having that sort of stuff there. Again, like the engine fire analogy in last week's episode, there's no time to be fumbling around with the checklist. There's not even time, I'm a big advocate of the ABCs of an emergency. Absolutely. Nail out the first two. A is for airspeed. The B is for best landing area. Figure those two out first. The checklist will come. There's no time to troubleshoot. We just had a catastrophic engine failure. Let's get this thing on the ground. That's the most important thing you can do. You need to have that flow check memorized. Having that flow check memorized is going to make you a great pilot. It's going to make you a safer pilot. Okay? So have those flow checks memorized in the event of an engine failure on takeoff. And again, have those passenger briefs done. And I'm going to talk more about this with my members later on in the show. But the thing to remember is, imagine if you already had your landing area picked out before you departed for every runway. That stuff is huge. If you're flying with another pilot, briefing that to them so they know. Briefing to them what are their responsibilities in the event of an engine failure. What if you're flying with a non-pilot? Well, using that non-pilot to the greatest of your abilities. What can they do to help? First off, they can protect themselves. They can, strap down their seatbelt, and they can open up their door and jettison their door open somehow. Give even your non-pilot something to do. Now, assuming they're of, an age they can do that. You're flying with your kids, that's your responsibility. But, if they're capable of doing something, think of little tasks they could do. I mean, they are trusting you by by them flying with you. That's a big responsibility to think about. Okay, so just think about that. By the way, guys, the number to call in with your flight training questions is 877-537-6704. A lot of sevens in there. 877-537-6704. You guys can call in at that number. That right there, that's toll free. You will talk to my beautiful call screener, who is also my wife. And then from there, we can chit-chat and get your flight training question answered live. So anyways, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we are going to get right back to it, chat with you guys in about 3 minutes after the break. Are you prepared for an engine failure on takeoff? What if there was runway remaining? What if there isn't? Would you know what to do if you lost radio communications in IFR conditions? My newest book, In-Flight Emergencies, a step-by-step guide to handling the unexpected, will cover all of this and more. Readers learn about a topic such as engine failures on takeoff. Then at the end of the chapter, there's a URL where they can go and watch a video of an actual engine failure on takeoff and see how the pilot applied the skills mentioned in the book. We're adding videos you love to the books you need, because a good pilot is always learning. Check out the book at inflightemergencies.com.
Hey there, quick question. What would you do if you lost your logbook? Imagine having to go back in time to track down all of those hours, dates, aircraft flown, and airports landed at. It's near impossible. Trust me, I've done it. Welcome to Runway Log, the best online pilot logbook that lets you log flights on your iPhone, iPad, or Android device. Attach photos to certain entries and see where you've been with our interactive map. Best of all, it's backed up every hour and fully exportable to CSV or PDF. Runway Log has your back. It even sends reminders when your flight review is due. Don't wait another second. Start your free trial of Runway Log today. Visit runwaylog.com.
The Pilot's Inner Circle is more than just a ground school. It's a community.
And I want to thank you for all that you're doing. You're going to grow this show. You're going to be the most popular and best instructor in the nation because you focus on people and learning. You're sincere, you have integrity, and you have character. And your wife is a great gal, too.
Members get a chance to interact with me and others each and every week live in the radio shows like the one you're listening to now, or every Monday evening in the mock check rides and weekly workshop webinars that we do.
Jason really does a wonderful job teaching his students all the basics you're going to need to help pass your written test as well as your practical test. Once you're a member, the old online seminars every week. This is really a big key as far as my training was concerned, because there's those nagging questions, exactly what does this do, what does that do?
With a 100% pass rate and over 1,000 check rides passed, what's not to love about the Pilot's Inner Circle? Members also get FAA Wings credit for listening to this very radio show you're listening to now, in addition to the extended version. So what's not to love? Visit pilotsinnercircle.com to become a member today. We are back, and again, guys, that number to call in with your flight training questions live right now, toll free at 877-537-6704. And I just got a great message from a friend and fellow flight instructor who helps me out with everything at N0A.com, and that is Larry Diamond. And he was explaining to me, his sites that he uses in the event of an engine failure on takeoff. And one of those he uses is a golf course. I mean, a golf course can make an excellent, landing area, off a runway. And on that topic, too, and it's something I'm going to talk about in greater detail with the members, is that, what makes a great off-airport landing site? Are you guys... in favor of roads? I mean, obviously we all want airports to land at, but it can't always work out that well. But think about that. Is that something you guys have ever thought about? What makes a great landing area? It brings up the age-old question: do you choose trees over water? What is your preference there? And that's something we can start a little discussion on if you guys want. It's something the members we can chat about a little bit inside the forums. but it brings up some great points. And I'll share one of my points with you here. A lot of times, and I do this in-flight emergencies presentation all over the country. Done it at Oshkosh, Sun and Fun, AOPA Summit, little local airports literally all around the country. I've done a similar in-flight emergencies presentation. In-flight emergencies are something I'm really passionate teaching and talking about. It's really that unexpected. You can train for it all you want, but to see it, to properly simulate it, is a whole different animal. And that's something I try to instill in my students, whether physical students or online students, it doesn't matter. But bringing up this topic now of landing on roads. And this is a question that I get asked all the time. Jason, what is your opinion on landing on roads? I am personally, honestly, I'm just not a big fan of it. And this is my philosophy, and I'll share deeper into this with my Pilots Inner Circle members. This is the thing. If I am going down, do I really want to endanger anybody else in the process? That's just kind of my thought process. And maybe that's just a personal belief that I hold very close. But if I have got a problem, I don't need to share that problem or, share that burden with really anybody else, put that on their shoulders. So does that make sense? By that I mean, when is the last time when driving down the road you looked in your rearview mirror for an airplane landing behind you? I don't think I've ever done that. Maybe sometimes I pretend, or sometimes maybe you guys have seen that YouTube video, which is obviously digital animation of that airliner landing behind the little old lady, or not the gentleman in the Jeep and the little old lady's driving. I'm sure you guys have seen that. It's computer animation though. But really, when's the last time you've done that? And another point to bring up is, think about a dead engine. Your airplane is so quiet. I mean, you are going to be like a stealth bomber sneaking up on, wherever you're landing to. I mean, if your propeller's windmilling, it might be making a little bit of noise, but they might just hear a whistle. I mean, literally, you have no horn. Your electrical system's probably still going to work, so you could try flashing your landing light and that sort of stuff, but really, I've got more important things to be doing than flashing my landing light. I'm about to make the most important landing of my life. So just something to kind of think about there. But I'm not a big fan of roads, and if I had to, that's where I'm going. I mean, if I have to, I'm going to land there. Which then brings up the question, again, I'm kind of already not excited about landing on the road, but if it's my only option, of survival, I'm going to choose the road. I'm going to choose a road over trees, I'll tell you that much, which then brings up this question. Do you land with the traffic, or do you land against the traffic? And I've heard this debated inside and out, every which way. And I still have my own conclusion, to this. And that conclusion is simple in my mind. To others, it, may not make sense. But to me, I'm going to land against the traffic. Now, when I say against the traffic, it's because of what I just explained to you. When's the last time you looked in your rearview mirror for a dead engine airplane sneaking up on you? I don't think I ever have. I'm going to land against the traffic in hopes those people are not texting and driving and they're looking through their windshield with their hands on 10 and 2 like they're supposed to, and they can pull out of my way. Now, that's obviously assuming you're landing on an interstate or something like that. But what about a little 2-lane road? Well, with just, 1 lane each side, you're going to have to land in the middle of that. And what about power lines? I mean, there's so much that can be brought up, with this topic here. Again, I'm just not a big fan of roads. But you know what? That may be your only option. And these off-airport landing sites, shy of landing at another airport, you're limited to a lot of stuff. Okay, so that's really that, and that's kind of the gist of stuff and what I wanted to, really get across to you guys. And again, we're close to wrapping this thing up, but if you have a last-minute flight training question, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, or call in right now, 877-537-6704. I'll be happy to chat with you. I know last time we had so many people calling and I couldn't get to everybody. That's really kind of to summarize everything. Think about your two scenarios there, with runway remaining and without runway remaining. Practice the with runway remaining. It sounds so silly. I mean, yeah, Jason, the engine quits. I've got runway remaining. I'm going to land back on the runway. Again, on paper, when you say it, it sounds so silly. It sounds so easy, but it's not that easy. It just isn't. Again, I guarantee that when your instructor reaches over and pulls that throttle back to idle before the tachometer hits idle, before that throttle is all the way out, the stall warning horn will be blaring. Or in some cases, that stall warning light will be shining for some of my Cherokee 140 flyers out there. That's just how it is. That nose is going to have to get pushed over so far and abruptly. It's going to happen fast. Again, you will not find this on any private pilot, commercial pilot, ATP syllabus in light aircraft per se. But that's a fact of life. Sometimes you need to have these flow checks memorized and have this sort of stuff down pat to really be the master of your airplane. Okay, so really focusing on that. And then again, as far as the engine failure on takeoff without runway remaining, just know that you've got your 60 degrees, really 30 to the left and 30 degrees to the right of you. And that's it. I mean, that is really your limit from that standpoint. You're not turning back. I can't stress it enough. They call it the impossible turn for a reason. They don't just name things like that. Okay? You're low, you're slow, you just lost your power source. Why on earth would you increase the horizontal component of lift, 10 times? Which is a fancy way of saying, don't turn the airplane. Keep it straight ahead. Keep the wings as level as possible. Treat it like a normal landing. And choose a great off-site landing area before you ever leave the ground. Guys, that is all I've got for you guys on the free portion of this podcast. This podcast continues on, however, for the Pilots Inner Circle members. So my Pilots Inner Circle members, stay tuned. I'll be releasing that inside of the Ground School Academy shortly. You'll be able to listen to the rest of this podcast and then be able to submit for your FAA Wings credit to help you towards renewing your pilot certificate. Those Wings credits are used like CEUs, continuing education units. Why? Because a good pilot's always learning. We know that. So anyways, guys, we're going to continue on for my members. For my non-members, I hope you'll consider joining the Pilots Inner Circle. You can check it out more by going to pilotsinnercircle.com. Inside of there is not only podcasts, but great webinars. In fact, tonight we're doing a webinar on VFR flight following, what it is, how to pick it up, and how to sound like a pro while someone is really having your back watching you on a radar screen. So we'll talk more about VFR flight following. That's tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. my time. And that is that, guys. So again, pilotsinnercircle.com to learn more about the Inner Circle, the Ground School, and this podcast, plus everything else great that comes with it. Oh, one last thing I want to add. Sorry, I forgot about this. I am doing a check ride webinar. Again, we have got this check ride stuff down to a science, and I'm sharing a lot of that with you guys in the webinar. It's a $10 webinar. It's very inexpensive. The only reason it's $10 is to reserve those seats. Literally, my webinar software can only handle so many people, so I only want to get the people who really want to be there. I mean, that's just that's the reason for the fee right there. I have been doing a ton of these webinars. I'm doing them Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And this week, I keep telling myself this week, maybe the last week, I might do a few next week, and that's it. We're talking about 15 questions guaranteed to be on your private pilot check ride without a shadow of a doubt. If that's something that interests you, if that's something you want to learn a little bit more about, again, we don't have 100% check ride pass rating for nothing. It takes a lot, it means a lot to have 100% pass rate, and that's not just my physical students, that's my online students, that's everybody put together. No one's ever failed a check ride under this guidance. So check that stuff out. The website for that is checkridesecrets.com. And again, I am I'll do them through this week and maybe one or two next week, but that's really about it. We've done so many of them, I'm pooped, literally. You need to catch up on the rest and let the voice rest for a little bit, as you can hear it. Anyways, guys, I'm done rambling, though. That's all I've got for you. So have a wonderful day, guys. And most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, guys. See ya.